Hello and welcome to the webinar on improving marketing performance using data. I am Adam Smith, the Senior Data Scientist at NetNatives, and throughout this presentation we'll be looking at how the student audience is changing and evolving across the US. The first thing that I want to talk about is how the student population has changed over time, and from this you can see that since 2015 to 2019 there's been a 2.1% drop-off in the student audience, and the rate of the decrease in student audience has significantly slowed down between 2018 and 2019, which is worth noting and hopefully continues into the future. The 2020 data is yet to be released by the NCES, so please bear with us for an update there when that becomes available. The next thing to look at is where students are actually attending university. So this is looking at the enrollments of students per year and what type of location the institution that they're attending is within. So bearing in mind the previous slide, the fact that the growth within the large city is increasing so significantly within this plot shows that there is a real increase in demand for people attending these types of institutions. And the same goes for the smaller cities. However, you can see there's a decrease in the mid-sized cities and everything else is remaining about on an even level. To take a closer look into this, we can look at the data on an institutional level. And for this, we will just look at this map here. And this map shows the number of students enrolled in the fall of each year at each institution as placed on this map. Now, the main region to look at here as this evolves over time is the East Coast, and we see significant growth in the cities here, with everything else remaining about the same, with a few places across the map also shifting. So you can see between 2017 and 2018, there's quite an increase, as you can tell by the much more warmer yellow colours starting to come in. And between 2018 and 2019, you can see these really start to heat up. So carrying on to the next slide, where are these students coming from? So in 2019, this is where the enrolled freshman state was originally, so their parents' home, and you can see that there's a huge number of students coming from the West Coast, yet in the previous slides we saw that there was quite a significant increase in the uptake of students on the East Coast. So this is worth bearing in mind when trying to select and choose your audiences. Now, something that I found very interesting when looking at this data was that 6 in 10 students were female in 2019 at university, and this gap has only been widening over time, and this is due to the decrease in uptake of male students in attendance to university, whereas female students is remaining fairly consistent, which is something that I found quite interesting, and I couldn't identify a reason as to why this was happening, but I thought the fact that there was quite a steady drop off over time to be quite an interesting factor here. Now, at what age are students attending university? Now, when looking at this slide, there's quite a harsh W, and this unusual W shape, is due to the fact that universities only have to declare the age of their students every other year to the NCES, so hence the slightly unusual shape. Now, it's worth noting that on the odd years, so 2015, 17 and 19, it can be seen that the peaks are almost in exactly the same place. So if you imagine drawing a straight line between them, this isn't really shifting too much. And the other interesting point is that the years in which that they voluntarily offer up this information, they are also staying approximately the same. So I think there's just a group of institutions that do volunteer this information, a group that don't, which keeps this on a level playing field. Now, if you look further down on this plot, there's this magenta color here that is really showing a shift in time, and this magenta color is representing the under 18 population, and you can see that the under 18 population attending university across America is growing over time, and this is doing so at quite a rate, and this is including on the years that this data doesn't have to be reported. So this is something very worth considering when trying to design new programs and courses for which age group that could possibly attend. Now, the ethnicity of the students that are attending is also shifting. So there's been a significant growth in the Hispanic population that are attending university, especially when you consider that there's a general decrease. This growth is quite considerable as a percentage change of the total. And the percentage change, again, of white students attending university is also dropping off quite significantly. So again, this is worth bearing in mind when you're trying to select your audience for your advertising and your marketing. Now, the continuation rate of students appears to be increasing, implying that more students are dropping out of university after their first year. So it's worth also noting here that there is a no data line, so this means that no information was provided for these students. So the assumption that we're making here is that the continuating line is completely distinct from this and therefore can imply a true relative rate of dropout. Now, as across the rest of the world, there is a significant increase in the popularity of online or distance learning. Here we can see that the number of students that are not enrolled in any distance learning is decreasing, whereas the number of students enrolled and partaking in distance learning is increasing, whether that's doing some or the entirety of the course as a distance learner. And both of these are increasing at relatively the same rate. I expect, or we expect, that throughout for 2020 this will increase significantly, and over the coming years this will continue to increase in popularity thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic and everyone getting significantly more used to doing things online and in a remote fashion. Now, when it comes to looking for opportunities, what I've done here is we've taken two data sets and we've manipulated them in order to show the percentage of people within each state that only have a high school degree. So the darker the colour shows the more people with high school degrees only, the lighter the colour shows more people with a high school degree or higher, or no high school degree at all, depending upon each state. So if I just play this through, and if we look here, we can see that as it evolves over time, the evolution is fairly random for each state, and there's not a particular shift, a particular pattern that makes this a consistent trend across the country. So if you're wanting to look at a particular state, it would be worth looking at this on a sort of individual level, and even drilling into this on a county level, which is possible with this data. It's just shown on an aggregated level here to demonstrate how a unique perspective in which we could look at the data to try and get a better understanding and feel for the market. Now, the final thing to look at here is how the student audience, the subject in which the student audience is interested in is changing over time, with the most popular subject being the liberal arts, and this growing by 4% per annum since 2018. With business and administration and nursing also growing significantly, with science courses also doing quite well, with there being some significant decline in some allied health and medical assisting services courses. So it's also worth looking at how this is changing over time and the popularity of each course, and how then maybe you could change or consider shifting your offering to the students. And that wraps up the presentation. So if there are any questions, please feel free to follow up via the email, and hopefully this has been informative for you all. Thank you.